Am I good?
No,
Okay.
fine.
All right, yeah. Oh, yeah. So After Office Hours is a community that is mostly consisting of like founders, community, and generally people in tech who come together. And the thing that I mostly do here is like whenever I ask for help with respect to something that I'm building or something I'm designing, there's always a community to rely on to work through things in tech. And that's what I found here in terms of community. And since sometimes I have ADHD, no, I always have ADHD, but sometimes there are times when I'm not able to work. So I just joined the Discord channels here and we work together silently. So that's also something that we do here. Yeah, and one more thing that I want to request of everyone is that whatever you have talked here or whatever else that you hear about or you want to reach out to us, feel free to tag us on Twitter or on Instagram and give us a shout out. So, yeah, let me quickly also introduce myself. I'm Santrupti. I have spoken here before, fun fact. I spoke about ADHD here before, and when I heard that we were doing an accessibility month, I was like, okay, I need to post this, and I requested Pooja for it. I've been a designer for about 2 years, and really enjoy being part of this community. And welcome one, welcome all. And let me also quickly introduce Aditya. So the way that I found him was on Twitter, where a friend of mine had tweeted about a talk that he'd given in his company, and he mentioned inclusivity, and ADHD, which was one of the first times I ever heard about on Indian Twitter. Somebody talking about this, so I immediately pinged him, and we kind of realized like we have a lot in common. And fun fact, he has 17 cats. Another thing that you need to know about the server is we have one server just for pets and lots of cat fans here, so you will be very popular. Another fun fact about him is that he has, he's a big video game nerd and would like to make your own video games, right? I would love it if you could introduce yourself and like tell us what video games you're playing these days, and like if you have any recommendations for us, and then after that you can proceed with your talk. So yeah, let's go.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, can you guys not getting stuck? Right?
Yes. No, right, it's awesome. Me, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Hi everyone. I'm Aditya. Yes, I do have 17 cats, and it's a long story, like how I got that. So I added them like one by one, and like sometime like 5 at one time. Yeah, so I think that's about about cats, but I think like I've been meaning to talk about this a bit because, as Sansrupti said, like I think like we connected and we talked a lot about what it means to have ADHD. So I'm not diagnosed, but I do have like a lot of symptoms. So I think we connected over that like a lot, and honestly, I feel that like this whole talk is kind of close to me as well, because like through this, like I was able to understand like a bit more about myself as well, like why I had like difficulty just growing up and just learning things. And yeah, I think like it was really interesting because this was like the first project I got here, and it's kind of funny that like someone like who has ADHD is like working on it. And so I think it was fun. So I think that's a bit about that. But as for I think game recommendation, there's like bunch of them. Honestly, last game that I was playing was Witcher 3, which went on for I think like 400 plus hours. So kinda proud, not proud of them. I don't know. I think honestly I'm not like a great person for game recommendation because I get like obsessed over like couple of them and not like play a lot more of them. So I don't know, like Age of Empires Nation, I used to obsess over them a lot. I think that's pretty much about me. I think like we can start with the talk.
Sounds great. Yeah, let's go. Very exciting. Okay. Oh, and also another fun fact is that I chased Aditya so long to get an access to the talk that he had given at quizzes. So when I saw that you were giving this talk, I was like, yes, I need to be part of this. So yeah, very, very excited to be hearing about this. And so is everyone, I'm assuming. So yeah, let's get.
Right, awesome. It's a presentation from a learning point of view. So whatever we design thinking about quizzes in perspective. Yeah, I think like before that, like, we should talk about a bit about like what quizzes is. So quizzes is a platform which helps teacher make their day-to-day life when teaching students easier, right? So there's a lot of things that a teacher has to do in US mostly, which involves like getting the the course ready, getting the test ready, and making sure that everyone is like following through. So it requires a lot of effort on their front. So quizzes helps teachers sort of take off some of that burden off their plate and make it a bit easier, right? And differentiated learning is like one of that aspect that a teacher has to do on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think like we'll definitely learn more about it, but just to set up a bit more context on this, right? So yeah, I think like we can move forward. So yeah, what is differentiated learning? So it means equal learning for everyone, right? So regardless of like who you are as a student, regardless of if you're coming from a different background or if you have like a certain disability, you should be able to have the same type of learning as other students in the class. So that is like very crucial for success of students, right? So yeah, I think like that is what it. And why is it important is because not everyone learns the same. So some student might find it more difficult to follow a course, right? And that could happen like for like many reasons. As like we move forward, like we'll definitely talk a bit more about it. But again, to make sure that every student is like successful, a teacher has to do differentiated learning. And one of other reason that why it's important is there are like two laws or bills in US which talk about like why is it important to have equal learning or equal opportunities for everyone. One of them is called IDEA, which basically means literally means Individuals with Disability Education Act. And within that, like there's something called IEP plans, which means Individual Education Plan. And the other is Rehabilitation Act, and within that, there's Section 504. It's kind of boring, but like these bills sort of talk about like why it's important to have differentiated learning for students and like how you can go about it, right? So a bit about these two things in more detail, right? So we talked about like how some students have special needs or can be born with like some disability, which makes it more difficult for them to have the same level of education. And a bit about like what some of those disabilities can look like is in case of IEP. Yeah, so I think we were talking about like what are some of the things that kids who are like part of either IEP or 504 can have, right? So one thing that I can talk about is like autism and how it makes learning very difficult for students. And the reason for that is because it's very difficult to know what type of autism a kid might have, right? So as a child like who has autism, you might be overstimulated by small things, or you might be a child like who needs a lot more stimulation. So you can be in either of the ranges, right? So it makes it difficult for a teacher to make sure that like both these type of students are getting like the right set of learning, right? So the right set of accommodations so that they can learn better, or at least have the same opportunity as someone like who might not have autism. And at the same time, when we think about 504, you can have ADHD or you can have like difficulty hearing or listening to things. That means that you might need different set of accommodations from someone like who might have autism. So as you can see, there's like, I think around 20-ish or close to, I think 15, 16 overall disabilities or characteristics that a student might have, right? So, and it makes it very difficult for teacher to make sure that everyone is able to learn the same way. Just a bit about like what is the state of things right now. So there are about 15% of kids who need IEP or 504, and this is like US numbers. So there's about, I think, like 12-13% of people who need IAP and 5-6% of people who need 504 tax. So when it comes to quizzes, teachers, there's at least one student in 60% of the classes that teachers have on quizzes platform that need additional help. So this was again like a big reason for us to build it. Seeing it from both perspectives, just having like empathy for the teachers, like where they have to do a lot of things to make sure that they're providing enough for their students. At the same time, like as a business opportunity for us to come out as a platform that has all these like functionality that helps teacher to do this. So balancing both the sides, the user side and the business side, was important here, because when we talk about these things, there's no depth to it, right? So it can be pretty endless. When like you start seeing like what are some of the things that you have to do to make sure that these kids get the same education. So that sort of brings on like how it happens and why there is like endless things that you can actually do to accommodate your students or users. So that brings us to universal design for learning and what exactly it means for a student, right? So it is a framework that makes sure that learning is accessible to students of all types. And there are three principles mainly. First one is engagement. The second one is representation, and the last one is action, right? So these three things are the principles that have been like set by people who created the universal design for learning, right? So, and as the name suggests, like it helps student to learn without having to sort of adjust themselves, and the learning environment is adjusted for them. So the first one is engagement, which is the most abstract one from all of three, and it talks about like why part of this whole situation. And what I mean by that is like as a student, I should know that why am I learning this, right? So uh, just to set one more sort of terminology, people who have like certain mental conditions are called neurodivergence, and people like who don't have certain mental condition like ADHD or autism are called neurotypical people, right? So just to set that context, because I will be using that terminology a bit here. So people who are neurodivergent might have a very straightforward way of understanding things or worlds or even following orders for that matter, right? So if they are told that this is important for you to learn, they'll like sit down and just study that. But for a neurotypical children, it might be more difficult to get the motivation to learn something. And small things might just like put them off, and they might like not want to learn that concept or a subject or whatever. So that's why it's like really important for teachers to make sure that students are always sort of feeling that engagement when they're learning. And this one is the most difficult to crack one, and this is again like not something that we build a lot on. I'll talk about like some of the things that we built, but just to like set context that this is more about internal motivation rather than them like seeing something and like being able to like sort of understand it or like express themselves better, right? So yeah, I think next one is representation. So this is more around like how the students are consuming information. So this is again, I feel like is the most straightforward to understand. One example that could help you guys like sort of maybe understand it a better, like what it means is that as a student, like sometimes it might be more difficult for me to read text or follow text. So it might be better for like people to just like hear like whatever instruction, or if there's some learning material, just hear it and like maybe at the same time follow through the text, right? Having a larger font to read through. So these kind of things sort of deal into the representation part of learning. Like I'm seeing things and I should be able to understand it in that sense, right? The last one is, I think, the last one is action and expression. What it means is that as a student, like how can I express myself better? So even after learning something, I should be able to easily express myself, and there should not be some deterrence in me, like sort of being able to say something that I want to say, right? So And like how it translates to like an actual functionality is, let's just say there's an MCQ choice question and there are like 4 questions. As a student, I might not be able to follow through or go through like 4 options. I might have difficulty sort of being able to relate 4 options to the question. So sometimes it helps to reduce the amount of question choices that they have in an MCQ from 4 to 3 or 3 to 1, 3 to 2, to make sure that they're able to like sort of process that information as well. Or like if a student can like speak better than they can type, right? So it might be better for us to provide audio or video record as a response. So again, like these things are pretty depthless, I feel, because once you start digging deep into it, there's like literally endless things that you can build, and not purely just from I think learning perspective. You can like take away things from these different ways to learn for special students into any aspect of your product. Cool. Yeah, I think, moving before I start looking into the actual product that we built, any questions on these things so far?
I think we'll do the questions like at the end because I feel like it'll drag for a long time if we kept doing that. So let's finish everything and then we'll come back to the questions all at once at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. So the next thing I want to talk about the feature that we built for this thing. We called it Accommodations. So because that's what we were doing, like accommodating students like who have different needs. So there's a bunch of different accommodations we built. As you can see in the screen right now, we divided it into mainly 4 sections. One was just around like reading support. The next one was around how you can like sort of change certain settings for the questions. There's like some toolkits to help students who might need it. And there's like change in learning environment. So I'm going to talk specifically about just 6 of them and sort of represent or sort of like relate them to some of the concepts we talked about in UDL, right? So I think the first one is engagement. So it's like the 2 things that it's showing here is like turn off sound effects, and the next one is don't show leaderboard. This might seem strange thing to sort of be in that category, but last one maybe I can talk about is this don't show leaderboard, which mainly is to reduce competition that students might feel when they're taking a quiz, right? So just to give context, I think like leaderboard is something that comes up when I'm taking a quiz on quizzes. It shows me where I'm on the leaderboard, like I might be on the 10th position, I might be on 3rd position. So some students might feel a lot of pressure when they're looking at a leaderboard, and they might not be at the top, they might be at the 8th position. So if the leaderboard is like being present all the time there, or if they can see it like after every question or so, they might feel the pressure that they have to perform better at the quiz if they are not, and that kind of puts like more pressure on them, right? So what we decided or what we did was to just like have the option to remove this leaderboard for certain students, which helps in them, performing at the same level. And the second one is, the first one in this part is like turn off sound effect, which is what I talked about, where like, some student might have difficulty following the quiz, like if they're like a lot of sound effects while they're taking the quiz, or it might distract them, or it might just put them off. So there can be a lot of reasons for them to not like sound effects. So we give the option to turn that off as well. In terms of representation, there's 2 things. So first one is dyslexia font, which changes like how the question and answer options are represented to them in a different font. It helps them read faster. It helps them sort of follow through the text, and it helps them reduce the amount of error that they like English, which then answer without having to sort of go through the same process as like other students. The first one is redemption question, which again like is the quizzes thing, which is basically we ask them the same question that they might have not given the right answer again at the end of the quiz. So this helps them take the same quiz or the same question again, and sort of, if they have the confidence to answer that question again, they might like get it right this time. So that again is like the idea to help them succeed at the same level as like a neurotypical student, right? And the second one is like reduce answer curves. I think like this is something that we already talked about, where they can like sort of have fewer options to choose from, which helps them like go through their course in a more typical way. So just to give like some example from the product itself, dyslexia font can look, change like how the text is being represented, and just a font which might look very weird to us, but this font sort of helps to categorize or differentiate each letters from each other, the letters from each other in a way that is easier to read for people who have dyslexia. At the same time, you can see there's like increased letter spacing, which also helps people follow through the text a lot better. The next one is just like bilingual dictionary, which just pops up whenever there's like words which might be very difficult for some people who are just learning English might be to to see. Here, like it's easy words, but yeah, I think in like a real world scenario, there might be like more difficult words throughout like the passage that they're reading, or if there's like a longer question that they might not understand, but that might not be the gist of the entire question. So just having like a dictionary where they can see like difficult question or difficult words is really helpful. Yeah, I think there's like fewer slides because it's more abstract and like didn't have like a lot of product photos. So I can take some question answers on like the overall presentation.
I think one of the things that I really liked was the part where he spoke about like not having music. Like that's one of the things that like has bothered me so much as a neurodivergent person using software in terms of like if it's not just music, like the software just doesn't get out of my way for me to get things done, right? And I'm so sorry to do what I'm about to say, but not just music, like the software just doesn't get out of my way for me to get things done, right? And I'm so sorry to do what touching moment. So that was great. So I have a few questions for you. So one of the things that you mentioned was when the kids would get really overwhelmed, they would reduce the questions from 3 to 2. Like, how does the software know when to do that?
Sorry, can you please repeat your question?
You said when the kids would get really overwhelmed with questions, it would reduce the questions from 3 to 2 and like 2 to 1 or whatever.
Right.
When does the software know how to do that, and like how did you solve for that?
Right. I think so. It depends on the teacher and their understanding of individual students. So they decide. So like on the screen, it's not being shared right now, but like they decide like who are the students who need like certain accommodations, and they select those students, and they say that okay, some of these students need this accommodation, some of those students need like a different accommodations. On the screen you can see you can create like a group of students, and then you can like sort of say that okay, these group of students will need like extra time, they might need a redemption question.
I see. Understood. And does it, I don't know if you have any data on this, but yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just to add a bit more context on like how this is decided. So like if a student is coming up as like someone like who needs some of these accommodations or need like a different learning, so there is a whole process for it, at least in US. So under the IEP plan, you can like sort of get certain people who will like test like the student and like make sure that they actually have like some of these like disabilities or like learning problems, and they create like an entire plan for them, and the teachers have to follow that plan. So that plan also sort of helps them to assign like certain things as accommodation to the students.
Understood. But does it impact, like, so if I reduce my questions, this is just one of the strategies I'm assuming that you're using to accommodate for these students. Like, does it happen that you are not able to get an accurate picture of whether or not somebody has understood a concept, like a student has understood a concept? Have you gotten any feedback on that, or how are they combating something like that? Or do they divide up the concepts to be asked later? is the testing system different for that?
Sorry, I think let me sort of understand the question better. So, what I'm trying to say is that, like, as a student, if I understand the concept better or not because of certain accommodation that we have been given.
No. In a sense, like, if I ask you less questions, how will I know if you understood everything, every concept that I've explained to you?
Oh, got it. So, yeah, I think it's slightly different. I think there might be some confusion here. So, the accommodation that I was talking about to reduces the answer choices and not the number of questions for a student. So, when you have like fewer number of choices, that makes it easier for you to, understand that which one might be like the right answer. But there is something that's called reducing questions as well, and that is something we are building separately. So that is part of something called level resources, which changes the entire quiz for that student. And that's a bit deeper compared to this because they're changing the entire information for that student, right? That also comes into play when we think about IEP plans because that is like individual education plan for teachers, for students. They're students have to understand concept differently. One example that I can give is like if someone has dyscalculia, which basically means that they might have difficulty understanding math. So there they might not be able to do double-digit math, for example, right? And the entire class might be on double-digit math, but that's like one thing that they're not able to do. So for them, the quiz might only have single-digit multiplication, addition, or whatever. So it changes based on those things. And that is something we are building right now. But yeah, I think maybe that answers your question.
Kind of, yeah. I have to see a lot of research questions. One of the biggest one that I want to ask is when you're covering such a large amount of disorders like dyscalculia, autism, and like you didn't even mention some of the ones that in the list as well, right? Like they only had like 20 or so, but I'm sure there are so much more mental developmental disabilities that come with. So how did you manage to cover all of them or did you not? And how did you, is there a way to navigate something as large as covering developmental disabilities for children?
Yeah, I think there is no way to cover all of it, and yeah, we did not cover all of them because teacher prioritization and like some of those things do come in play. But yeah, I think I don't think like it's possible to cover all of them and still build a successful product because there's no depth to it, and once you start looking into what UDL actually means, it goes like really deep into everything. Just to give one example of a product that we sort of research into is, let's just say if I have to understand like how to write to, right? So instead of just giving a blank paper to someone and just saying write to, there is like a game that you can play where you have to move the ball along the entire shape of 1, 2, or whatever to actually understand like how to write it, right? So that might be required for some students like who cannot like actually physically, are able to write to whatever, right? So yeah, I think there is no depth to it like once you start getting into it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take a few questions from the chat. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think like as for research, I think the research can be like really in-depth if you want to, but at the same time, as a product designer, you have to sort of make sure that whatever you're building like aligns with overall product and business goals. Yeah.
Understood. An interesting question from the chat from Pranay Design. It says, let's say you have a problem statement that some children are having problems with receiving and perceiving the question. Now, how do you go about research methods needed to prevent this and solve for this? Do you deep dive into some psychology research or something to help you come up with solutions?
Got it. No, I think it's mostly understanding it from teachers, like how they are like sort of actually helping these students. Because even before Quizzes built this platform, teachers were like sort of accommodating their kids, and all this like information that we found out about like how to actually go about building the right tools and prioritizing those tools. It came from just talking to our teachers. What type of teachers? Teachers were like purely just teaching kids who have special needs, or teachers who have both type of students in their class.
Correct. So another question that I got from Pooja was, what kind of qualitative research process you follow when you're designing for kids? So you mentioned that you spoke to teachers. Did you get to talk to some students as well? Or is it just teachers that you spoke to and kind of took those insights and navigated the research?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And yeah, it was difficult for us to talk to some of these students because one of the core fundamental things that teacher makes sure that when they're teaching differently able kids in their class is that they don't feel that they are being treated differently. So that is like really fundamental. And like if we were to talk to some of the students, like how they're actually feeling about like day-to-day life learning and everything, that would mean that we are like sort of making them feel different from some of the other students. Even if they are aware about that situation, it's like not very nice or polite to just call them out and like ask like, like, okay, these are like some of the things we feel like you might not have. What do you think about it? So I think, yeah, we did not like talk to students particularly about this. But we did get like information from teachers, like how students are perceiving it. So yeah, definitely students like were able to perform better. Again, like this is like a new feature. We still have to get really deep into what exactly happened in the classrooms and those things. But from just like purely a qualitative understanding, like students were not able to tell like when they got accommodation, but they were like, feeling better about it or performing better about it. So yeah, this information again, like this came from teachers.
Understood. Another question here, I think I'll paraphrase it a little bit. So for most companies, accessibility is like an afterthought, and most of them don't have the resources to consider this. But what are some simple things that you can still do as a designer to keep accessibility in mind, do you think? Or how would you approach a design process keeping accessibility in mind when it comes to companies like this, when you're working at places like this?
Sure. Yeah, I think accessibility and accommodations to me are like slightly different when I look at this thing, right? So accessibility would mean that like your design would be accessible to a larger audience. Accommodations mean providing certain things in that sense, right? So, but like if I have to see accessibility from accommodations perspective, I think some of the things are like very simple, just like having a read aloud option in your app, right? So even if it's like very robotic and boring, just having that helps blind people for sure. And like even people who are not very good at reading English, I think like it comes into play that as well. And giving an option to maybe decrease or increase font size on your web page, and making sure that like the entire web page is like scaling to a certain extent. You don't have to go crazy about the entire thing where like you give like infinite options like for doing these things. But like small things help. I think making sure the contrast for your font is right. Ability to some of the things which might not change like how you design the product, but how the final thing might look like. Again, like open dyslexia font is one example. Just giving the option to change to that font might help like certain people. So I think like you can pick some of the things from accommodations for students, but the core accessibility principle that you might have read like at a lot of other places, I think like apply in this situation as well.
Got it. Another thing that I think about a lot is how sometimes I'm really understimulated, but sometimes I'm really overstimulated, right? So when I'm understimulated, I would like music and like the software to be more engaging. And then when I'm really overstimulated, I want everything to be shut down and I'm concentrating on just one thing. I don't know if you've had this before, where if you've had a long day, you would like to do like one thing and not concentrate on too much. So have you thought about like the spectrum of like things that people feel, especially when it comes to like neurodivergent kids, where some of them want to be stimulated, want to have that like music that helps them concentrate, and then the others like really do not want to be distracted at all to get their work done? Is that something that you thought of or worked on this project?
Yeah, I think we definitely did think about that, and I think I talked about it a bit as well. Where like some days, as you mentioned, like you might need more stimulation. Some days you might need less stimulation, and that part is like I think the most challenging because most of the time teachers will not have time to follow through the mood of a student on like everyday basis, right? So. Sometimes a student might want music, sometimes they might not want music when they're playing the game or taking the quiz. So yeah, I think like we did think about it, but we did not build for it as such. One of the things that we are doing at quizzes is making a decluttered theme. So right now, if you look at the design, the student part of it, where the question and the answer options are coming, it has a lot of colors. So which might not be ideal for like some students, right? So we do give the option to change the theme, and once we have that decluttered theme in the system as well, students will be able to sort of say that okay, like I want this nicer theme today instead of like holding black and white theme, right? So they still have the option for that. And some of the other things, which is like music, or like turning off like sound effects, and again like is a setting that students can change. Teachers do have the option to turn it on or off by default for some of the students, but at the same time students are also able to do those changes on their own, right? So if I really don't like music, I can just go and turn it off, but it's not part of the core flow for students right now.
Understood. Okay. Another question that I got was, how do you feel about use of color in text and background?
I mean, yeah, I like it. But I think, yeah, it really depends on the color and like I think how big the text is or like the text color itself. But I think like maybe like the question is more around like the visibility of text over like some color which is not visible. I think like yeah, that should not be the case most of the time. But again, this thing is very tricky because if you follow guidelines like WCAG or something like that, that might tell you, that it's okay. It's not okay to use like a certain color combination. But the newer guidelines, whose name I forgot, which is like an next version of WCAG, will say that like some of those combination might work better, right? So I think the research on this is still on, and it's really complicated when you think about like different monitor sizes, different monitor colors, spaces, and everything. So yeah, I think take your best call, and like depending on what type of product you're building, I think should be fine to use it.
Okay, so for a lot of people, dyslexia font, like we're hearing about it for the first time. Could you talk more about like how it works, the disorder itself, and how the font itself might help people make it more readable or make it more readable for people with dyslexia? I'm assuming readability and being able to detect what word it is the problem with dyslexia, right? Is it?
Yeah, I think that is like how it is. Yep. Yeah, I think like most of people like who up in early 2000s know about dyslexia mostly because of Tare Zameen Par. So like an interesting topic. So I think like the main issue is that people have difficulty sort of differentiating between two different letters. I think one good example is B and D. So for them that curve is like same or it gets reversed sometimes. So adding that additional weight to one part of the font. So I think like in the chat, someone has shared this is dyslexia font, right? So there itself you can see that S has like some extra weight, right? So that provides like some additional characteristics to it. I think Comic Sans is like also like a good font for people who have dyslexia. So yeah, I think this is like how it helps. I think someone shared about bionic reading as well. So this is something that we wanted to incorporate as well. But mostly dyslexia font was doing well for us, and this required again like a lot of product solutioning. And at the same time, what we heard from like our teachers was that the research on this is like still on. So that's why we did not like incorporate it.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I have ADHD and I don't like the bionic font at all. Like, maybe I read it too much as a kid and I'm used to that kind of like straight fontness and I want to stick to that. But I know that it works for some people though. What about you? Do you like it? This is just like a personal opinion, honestly.
Yeah, I think it did help me. It does help me sometimes, not always. So yeah, I think. Also,
so sometimes you just don't have to focus. Like no matter what you do with the font, like my brain is not ready to focus, so we can't do much, right? Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to ask, this is like again a very personal question, is what are some disabilities that you found through this project that you were like, wow, this is interesting, or this is something that people ignore and I don't think people have heard about it that you might want to bring to light here?
Oh, I think dyscalculia is something I did not know about at all. And not just like, so just to myself, I think dyscalculia is like difficulty learning or understanding certain concepts of math. And I think like it's interesting because math in general is like a difficult topic to understand, but some people have difficulty understanding things that we might feel is straightforward to do, right? So addition of two negative number, for example, right? So as a concept to us, like, or at least like most people, might be easy for them to actually understand it. But someone who has dyscalculia will not know what to do with like two negative numbers and like how to add them. So yeah, I think that was really interesting that I did not think about.
Weirdly enough, one thing I want to add about dyscalculia is weirdly enough, a lot of autistic people assume that they would be good at math because of all the movies that we've seen about like autistic people. But a lot of autistic people tend to also have dyscalculia because their mind cannot comprehend numbers, especially big numbers and like adding things. And like generally, they also struggle with like for example, if I have expenses, like monthly expenses is a really big problem. So I found that really interesting. It was an interesting find for me that autistic people can also have dyscalculia in conjunction. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, I think like I'm not sure which one it is, like because I have heard both the sides. So either like autism or ADHD does come free with like some of these quirks that people can have. So yeah, I'm not sure which one it is. I think like you might know a bit about
sometimes you get both. Sometimes you get both. Yeah, sometimes you get both autism and ADHD, which is just like a package deal. Like it's amazing. Like you get everything. It's called ADHD. So yeah. Anyway,
it's called ADHD. Yeah, I think what were we talking about?
We were talking about like some disabilities that people might have not heard of or people don't consider or thought about before. Yes.
Yeah, I think like mostly that, and just knowing a bit more about autism. I think I knew about it a bit, but just like the spectrum of it, I think that. I think one thing that we have not covered, which is not part of IEP or 504 plan, is just people who are learning English. I think like we touched a bit on like what are like some of the things that can help them, but there's like a large section of students like who don't understand English very well. I think like so that was also something that we built for. It's called ELL, English Learning Teachers. English language learners. Sorry, yeah, that's the right term. Yeah, I think like I learned a bit about it. Like, and weirdly enough, we got like very strange requests for languages that we should support for translation, and Gujarati came out to be like one of the top ones. I'm still not sure.
Interesting.
We support. Initially, we supported only 4 or 5 languages, like Spanish being the topmost one. But then, like, we were getting requests, and like Gujarati was like one of the regional languages that came out as like very popular one. So yeah,
very interesting. Yeah. Let me see if there are any more questions. Quickly, we only have 5 more minutes. If you want to put in your questions, put them in real fast because this is ending soon, guys. Please share some good resources on ELL. I think I think we're good. So just to remind you guys, feel free to tweet at us, give us a shout out. If you like something here, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram. And yeah, thank you everyone for attending. Thanks a lot, Aditya, for being very patient with all my questions and the whole presentation as well. It was really good, very enlightening. And this is like I don't hear about this often, so I was very thankful for this talk. So yeah, thank you, everybody. And one more thing I want to remind you all is this accessibility talks that we're doing is a month-long thing. I'll be hosting all of them, so feel free to attend whichever you can. And yeah, thank you. Great job, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
For joining.